Dean told me, I said, what's the time limit? He said, well, 5 minutes maybe. I said, what am I supposed to do with the other 3? No, he didn't say that. He gave me a little background. I started doing this 26 years ago when I retired. And I was very pleased and blessed to have been retired at 25. So you do the math. Anyway, I don't know what I'd do through these Washington winters if I didn't have my little man cave and a radio and just let the chips fly down in that little area. Most of these things started out as gifts to my children and grandchildren. Like, I guess these, I made a dozen each of all of these. I've made, I don't know, 6 or 8 frame sets. Most of this stuff, this is the little girl's Christmas present. They're movable joints. She can kneel down and pray. I'm just hoping that, you know, if at my age now, I would really treasure having something that was made by a great-grandparent. And so most of these I put an inscription on, when I give them to them, I've got an inscription on the bottom, the year they were made and who they're made by and their name. So I hope that they don't end up in a burn pile or something. They keep them as a, you know, a keepsake. So when I started, I guess the best thing I ever heard said was, if you have a plan for a piece of wood and you have an image in mind, that image is in there already. All you got to do is cut that excess wood off.
Not easy.
It makes it sound real easy, doesn't it? I'm very primitive in my tools. This is my kids have bought me Dremels, and I don't use them. I told somebody I think it's kind of like cheating. I just like to have something in my hand. And of course I have a bandsaw, but I have a coping saw to do a little fine starting. But I usually cut things out previously on a bandsaw, so that they're pretty much ready to start carving. It just speeds things up incredibly. The woods I use are, the best wood I can get is basswood. And I don't even think I have an example of it here because it's so expensive.
Where does it come from?
Pardon?
Where does basswood come from?
You know, I'm not sure. I don't think it's native to the U.S. But I go up, like these sticks, I go up to about the 1,500-foot level up on Mount Adams, and that's willow. And I cut the sticks that I like, but then I bring them home and I set them up inside for a year, and I don't peel them because if you peel them, they tend to split if they're not completely dried out. There's some pieces in here of maple. Most of it is basswood. And it's kind of a fun day when the ear is up and you can peel it, because it's always interesting to see what kind of a character it has and design. I was telling someone, I have a friend I went to school with that carves walking sticks too. And at our recent 50-year Golden Grads banquet, where we're raising money for scholarships, he donated some of his, but he gets the Alaskan willow, and it's very expensive. It's multicolored, it's beautiful. It's too expensive for me to work on. But I think he sold one that night for $500 and another for $1,000. And this, it looks like Christmas in July, but I guess I started a lot with the walking sticks, and then I went to the, Barbara and I were in Arizona at the time, and they had a little wood shop down in there that 55 and older community we lived in. So I'd cut them out and come home, sit on the patio and let the chips fly.
Well, bring that over to the mill so we can get it on camera.
Oh, that's right, yeah. The house we had built about 3 back had about a 12-foot ceiling in it. So we had trees at that time about 10 or 11 foot high, and they were all full of hand-carved.
Oh my goodness.
And when we moved the next time, we went to a smaller house, so I gave a lot of them away to the kids. And, this rabbit came from a piece of wood from right across the street over here. When I first retired, we lived over here on this big place, kind of caretaking. And no homes on there except 2 on the whole 800 acres. So it was a glorious place to spend about 7 years before they started breaking it up. But this came from a block of cedar that I found over there. Barbara saw that rabbit in a magazine and a picture about this thing, and she wanted that carved. That's,
What's the finish on the rabbit?
it's just latex paint and then a sealer put on it. These pieces are black walnut. A friend of mine gave me a good-sized piece of black walnut, and I made several of these. I made one for him for giving me the material. This is a conch out of the base of a tree, and a friend of mine gave that to me, and I let it sit in my shop for about 8 or 10 years, and I never knew what to do with it. And one day I was looking at it and I thought, well, I can peel that bark off of there and put a duck head on it, because it looks like a wing coming down, and it's got the tail. But if you get a chance, come up and pick this up, you'll be shocked. It's very heavy. It grew around a piece of rock in the center here. Quite amazing, really. I'm working on another one of these right now. That's how I got this yesterday. But I say you're never a wood carver until you have about a half mile of bandages you went through. The cedar, my son-in-law brought me a little stack of cedar that his father had put away in the wood shop up at Castle Rock years ago, and he's passed away, so he brought me quite a bit of it that was all dried and straight grained, and so I can't wait to get busy on it. But
what will you probably make out of it? You know, do you have any idea what that cedar's gonna?
Probably some more birds, but I've got to diversify a little more. I love the birds, but I've gotten, like Barbara says, we're getting quite a few of them here now. son lives up on an old homestead behind Woodland that had the fence posts that are over 100 years old. So I've used a lot of them. And they're kind of rotted looking on the outside, but boy, the inside is just nice as can be.
Cedar?
Cedar, yeah.
How long did it take you to carve that frame?
Well, you know, there's not much carving to it except for the steam pipe, and it's just more, this was more carpentry work than carving. Well, I carved the cattle guard and the wheels. I just went out and found dried branches like that, cut them thin, and so, but pretty time consuming.
Oh, yeah.
I brought it along because it's one of my favorites. And when I gave them out, I told their parents that they're kind of fragile in a way. If you give them to a 3-year-old, it's going to ruin them. And so I said maybe they should belong in their room up on a shelf, you know, for a keepsake. And then as they get older, they might appreciate them more. But it's kind of a shame to give them toys and then tell them they can't play with it. It was kind of the same way with these dolls. I know I got a couple of little great-granddaughters that are terrors. They go through stuff like you can't believe. And I guess that's just kind of normal kid stuff. But anyway, a lot of this I've carved. Barbara and I, when we had our campers yet, we'd love to go camping and I'd sit there in the shade and just let the chips fly. We still go up on day trips. She'll take a good book and I'll look for wood supplies, and then I'll have some of the stuff cut on my saw, and I'll sit there and whittle, just to have a nice outing. It's just kind of a joy to do it. I don't know, does anybody have any?
I have another block of wood now. What tool will I start with?
Well, except, you know, you save a lot of time with a bandsaw by pre-cutting it to some kind of a close shape where you can carve the rest of it off easier. And this is a handy little tool called a palm chisel. That's how I did this.
Do you draw your patterns on the wood?
I do, yeah. Draw the facing and the side. So actually a lot of these you can trim out on your saw, you know, pretty much in dimension, and then just start rounding out the corners and stuff. And, it's not that bad, really.
What wood is it Christmas decorations for?
Most of it's cedar. This, I said I didn't have any basswood. This is basswood. That's a little scrap of it. But I keep the little small scraps of it because it's so expensive.
Where do you get it?
I go to a specialty store in Portland where they sell carving supplies and different types of carving wood. But a block, oh, I'd say about as big as this duck box would cost, $20-some for that. But boy, it's wonderful stuff, because when you're carving, you soon learn how you should go with the grain. And with the basswood, you don't have to worry about that. You can go either way or sideways, and it's just very easy. It's good wood to start with. You might waste a lot of it just practicing, but and then of course this is a tool I used at the newspaper. Everything was in picas and points, but I did that for so long that I go picas and points on my measurements. I don't know, I can't give you any other advice except if you ever take up carving, I hope you enjoy it like I have. And it's not that complicated, and kind of rewarding to sit back and look at it, at your results when you're done.
Merle, could you talk about your process for the duck box? Like how you hollowed that out and...
Oh, well this, they're cut in, they're all cut separately, put together. And like I told Dean, I have a radial arm saw where I cut the slide with the top to slide in, which is very handy. Of course, I miter the edge, the corners, so it looks like, generally it looks like one piece. The different angles get a little bit tricky because you got to know what the angle is so the other piece is going to fit. Of course, you know that. But
You have a special glue you like particularly?
not really. I hear great things about that. What is it, elephant glue?
Tight
But I usually get that just that white woodworker's glue. It's amazingly strong, really.
Yeah.
So did you carve the head? Is the head a separate piece from the lid? Or?
Yeah, the head's a separate piece, and then just put on with one screw on the back here.
That's a nifty hiding place.
Yeah, well, it's kind of, I made that for all my sons, that they would put it in their bedroom, they can put their change and their keys and
Nice.
wallet. And might as well make it where the wife knows how to get into it anyway.
Are you a self-taught painter?
Yeah, kind of. But that's the most tedious part of it, I think, for me.
Those tall ornaments there, did you paint those?
This one my daughter-in-law painted, very talented. I painted a couple of them after she had the couple that I made later on, because I had a good sample to look at. I kind of cheated on that. She's so talented, and when I asked her to paint them, I said, I'll make you one to paint them. So it kind of spiced up the deal a little better.
Show us that big candy cane.
Huh?
Show us the big candy cane.
Oh, this one?
Yeah. Whoops.
Oh my God. That is
You're
big.
welcome to come up and look at any of this stuff and pick it up or whatever.
So how many projects do you have going at a time?
Well, I've got about 3 of them now. Sometimes I get bogged down with one and I kind of set it aside and think about it for a while I do another one. Then when I come back, I'm more enthused about finishing it than I was.
I have a question on some of your birds. They're so beautiful, and how do you, I mean, I assume you have photographs and so on that you base them on. How do you get the measurements? Because I could, if that was just on the
Yeah.
ocean shore, I mean, it was like, oh, okay.
These particular birds I had, they were in a book, and they had the measurements. And there was also a little clue in there on how to finish it. And I don't know, if you look at these close, the paint is real mottled and stuff on it. What I did is I painted them, and then I put lighter fluid on them and lit them on fire.
Oh, really?
And it ran that paint together and blended it like that.
Oh, how neat.
And then I put the little dots on it after I burned
Looks
it.
like it's made out of stone.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah. But, and the problem I had, I think it was maybe this one, because one of them I burned the beak off. But I was able to glue another one on there. Yeah.
Did
I
those
wouldn't
birds,
want to try that on a coffee table.
No, no.
And I've already got the Sunday school kids project done for this year. I won't tell you which one I've made for them.
Well, show them the angel that you made last year. So I think my first
Oh.
Christmas here, Merle made an angel for Anna and for Ollie. And I said, oh gosh, every Christmas we get them out, it's so nice. So 2 years, or I guess just last Christmas, he made 20 of these, one for every kid in the church.
oh, wow.
I think I have 25 made for next year. I'm hoping we grow a little bit more.
So your beautiful curvy birds, did they just start out a square block of wood?
Yeah.
Wow.
These take a pretty big piece of wood because it takes a pretty good sized block to make that curve in there.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the
Oh,
little angels that
adorable.
Oh, my.
I made the first year. Well, here's what I made this year. Little snowmen. I got them all in a box at home. There's 25 of them.
How often do you change design midstream?
I don't think I ever have. I can't think of a case where I have, unless I cut something off that I didn't mean to or something. Then I say, it was all planned that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Are there any woods you don't like to use, Merle? Used and
Fir is not good. Even the old close grain stuff is not good. It's too hard. And, that's about the only one, really.
Alder?
Alder, these are made out of alder. They cut these on the back of my place, really. They were standing dead alder and they were already dry. It was a little tricky to find something that, where a limb went out or something, so I could get that curve on there. But other
Does
than
cherry carve?
cherry, I've never carved cherry. I don't know why, but I just never have.
Maple?
Maple. This one here is maple. Most of these, when I first started, I would carve the head separately like this and then glue it on. But I stopped doing that. Well, you can see 3 of them here. These are early on, but I keep them because the wood has got so much character. But now I try to go like this fish, that's all carved out of the same one, same piece. Anyway,
What techniques did you use on the church? Is that all carved or?
no, the only thing that was halfway carved is the steeple. And like I say, after I made them, I thought, boy, I'd given them to my kids, and they have grandkids now. And if this was down on the floor, and one of the kids had happened, I'd say, be careful with that. I'm thinking now of some kind of a bell, an additional bell tower to slip over that. And it just worries me that I've got a few of these out there that could be pretty dangerous if the kids got fell on them or something. But yeah, this is just trying to think of the name of it again. Birchwood. And like I was telling Dean and Cora, I go over to Lowe's and they have a, back by their saw, they have a discarded scraps section. And I get pieces of this, they're pretty spendy for a board maybe 4 foot long. But the last time I was in there, I got one about this wide and 8 foot long that they cut off of a 4 by 8 piece of product. And very happy to get it. So I kind of scrounge everywhere I can.
I'm trying to think if there's any wood that grows on my acreage in Montana.
Oh, yeah.
So the shopkeeper there for a number of years, Mercantile, did this during the winter. And he went along the river and picked up, you know, things that have been weathered by the wind and the waves.
Oh, yeah.
And he had some, and I think I do actually have one of them. Somebody said, "Oh, you got a steeple," and I said, "Don't you dare." But you know, it was an interesting thing that he could do something, you know, during the cold of the winter up there.
Yeah.
And he just go gathering, and I have another friend over there that does something modified, much smaller and so on, than some of your beautiful birds. And you know, I think all of that is exceptionally wonderful, and I thought, I wish I was that talented, or I could convince my son that that's the way he could retire.
Well,
Is driftwood usable for you?
yeah, if it's good and dry.
How about, you know, they cut down a bunch of cedar along the fence line. Did you find any good hunks there when they cut down any of that? Good.
In
Fix them
fact,
up.
out there where we used to live, I
No.
used to.
No, just right here, remember?
Oh, over here, yeah.
Yeah.
Those old fence posts are usually pretty good yet on the inside.
Yeah, but the trees that they cut down, was there anything?
No,
Too,
they're
too,
too small.
Ah.
It takes a big old growth
okay.
or cuttings from them.
Mm-hmm.
I know where I used to walk down to the Whipple Creek Bridge and back every morning. I kept my eye on the fence post that was up on the top. Finally, one day I climbed up the bank and I got it. And I picked it up with my pickup when I went by. And I got a lot of product out of that one fence post. It was just in great shape. But probably 100 years old.
Yeah.
You ought to just carve the posts right there.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
What do you use to cut the wire with?
Sometimes my saw.
The pickup.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
It's just-
well, I'm glad to do it. Barbara says, you know, I think you've made enough birds, you know. So somebody asked about new product, I'm gonna have to start looking, I guess. But I've got I'm thinking now of making some wood trucks out of some good heavy stuff to give the great grandkids for Christmas this year. Something they can play with and not put up on a shelf.
Is there a size you like to start with, Merle? I mean, obviously.
Well,
smaller.
actually, the bigger the better. I mean, then as I cut things off and I save the small scraps, I do the ornaments with that, and just work my way down. And usually I use pretty much of it all up about no matter how big it is, but, you know, something like this takes a pretty good sized block, really. But yeah, I mean, if I could get a hold of the right log that was dry and everything else, I'd take that.
And some carver, the small tool you use,
These?
do you use different size?
Yeah, I've got, this is the biggest one I have, and then I've got some that have the little points in there for doing the hair on the, on this guy. And they're different configurations for, this I used on this rabbit to make it look like fur. You can see how it's all grooved on the sides. But you're welcome to come up and look at any of it. And I'm in no hurry to get home. Barbara's just got the job jar full.
Well, thank you, Merle.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking me.